joining me. A lot of times people ask me, what do I do with those extra egg yolks after I've made a white wedding cake, something like that. Typically, we use the whites in the cake, so we have all these extra yolks left over. This lemon meringue pie is a great solution to that if you have extra yolks left over. One thing you're asking right away is, well, don't you use the whites in the meringue on the top? An option for that, if you have those leftover yolks, is just to use your meringue powder that you typically have for like royal icing, like stiffening up your buttercream, that sort of thing, and just use that for the meringue powder. It's actually a little bit safer than using the actual egg whites, because sometimes those whites in the meringue don't get baked through all the way, and then you have that little risk of salmonella. So yolk option is great for this, and then the meringue is really nice and stable. First thing you want to do before you even get started, this is a really quick pie to put together. You want to start the syrup for your meringue. So what I've got here, this is already cooled. It's 1.5 cups of granulated sugar and 1 cup of water. And I just brought that to a boil so that all the sugar dissolved, and then I let it cool completely. So do that first, and that way you can just kind of move through all the rest of the steps at one time. So really easy pie ingredients. It's just 4 ingredients. I'm going to use 3 of my leftover egg yolks. Okay. And I've got 1/2 cup of fresh lemon juice. I always prefer fresh to bottled lemon juice. It just has a much better taste. And then a teaspoon of lemon zest, and that gives it a nice bright freshness. And this is just a can of sweetened condensed milk. And this is going to add a lot of really nice creaminess to it. And it comes already pre-portioned, just the 14-ounce can. And just go ahead and scrape that in there and just stir it together. And then once you have that fully incorporated, it's just ready to go in the crust before we bake it. Now, you'll notice over here that I have my crust. This is just one that I bought at the grocery store, and then I pre-baked it, poked holes in it, so it's already cooled off and ready to go. If you're making one yourself, just remember to pre-bake that as well and go ahead and cool that off. All right, this is all ready to go. So I'm just going to go ahead and pour it right into the crust. And this works great for a 9-inch standard pie. If you're going to do a 10-inch, it's probably going to be a little bit more shallow than you would like, but the 9-inch, it seems to work really, really well. All right, easy enough. Just kind of spread that out nice and level. And then we're going to work on our meringue. So we have a nice meringue powder. This is nice and fresh. We sell this at SweetWise. So again, my cooled syrup, and again, that was 1.5 cups of granulated sugar and 1 cup of water, and that's completely cooled. And then I'm going to add 1/2 cup of meringue powder. Okay? And then I'm going to just kind of give this a quick combine in here, and then I'm going to go ahead and pour it into my mixer. And I'm using a whisk attachment on my stand mixer. And once this whips, I'm going to put it on like maybe a 7, so that's like a medium-high speed. Takes about 7 or 8 minutes, and you want to take this to a full stiff peak consistency. So you'll just let it whip long enough for it to go in there. So I'm just going to pour this in here. Make sure we get all that good meringue powder in there. And I'm just going to go ahead and turn this up to a 7, and we'll see you back in about 7 or 8 minutes. Okay, so we've got this whipped to stiff peaks, so I'm just going to take this little whisk out, and then I'm going to go ahead and let the whole thing go on top of the pie, just kind of in the center to start with. And then what I want to make sure to do, once I start to spread, I'm going to spread it first, and then I'm going to make my peaks. What I want to make sure to do is bring it all the way out past the pie crust to the actual pan. Because what happens if you don't is that you leave a little hole there that the filling can escape, and then it kind of gets a little bit like a sugar water kind of escape. So just make sure that you completely seal that in. So I'm just going to go around here and make sure it's completely sealed, and then I'm going to make my pretty peaks. Okay, so just covering up even the edge of the crust. And then I'm going to use the back of my spatula, and I'm not so much swirling with my spatula, but I'm kind of putting it down flat and then pulling up. And then that leaves some nice peaks that are going to go in the oven. So once you have all your peaks made how you want them, what you're going to do is pop them into a 325-degree oven for, mine took about 18 minutes. And then what I did was I cranked the oven up just a little bit. I like a little bit of brown on there. To me, it just says meringue a little bit better. Sometimes I see a meringue pie and it's just too soft. It's not brown enough. So I cranked my oven up after the 18 minutes on 325 to 375, and I've actually put it on the broil setting. I'm not trying to crisp it, so don't turn it up past 375 and really keep an eye on it. Probably less than 5 minutes like that, just to get some nice brown peaks. And what that does is it cooks your egg yolks thoroughly that are in the pie, and it gives you a nice set meringue. And then what you want to do at that point is take it out to chill, and then once it kind of has that immediate heat off of it, you're going to pop it in the fridge for about 2 hours, then you're going to be able to slice it. So that is an easy way to use up egg yolks. Obviously, if you don't have the egg yolks, you can use the whole egg and just do the meringue out of the egg whites themselves. But if you're trying to use up the egg yolks, you can use the meringue powder and make a meringue, and that's a really great way to do it. So give it a try. I think it's a really fun recipe, easy to put together. Thanks for watching.